Today is Sunday, January the 20th, 2019. Hello, and welcome to Weekly Astrology Notes for the week of January 21st through the 27th, 2019. Weekly highlights for this week. Well, on Monday, the 21st, we've got Mars square Saturn, and that's going to bring up some insecurities. And that's going to be starting Sunday evening and through most of the day. But Monday evening is an excellent time to socialize. You see, the moon's going to be in this grand trine with Jupiter, Venus, and Mars. So it's a really great time for romance and recreation, fun, and laughter. So once we get over that Mars square Saturn, which is actually happening early in the day, then Monday evening looks really good. So look for something fun to do on Monday evening, especially since on Tuesday, the 22nd, early in the morning, we're having Venus conjunct Jupiter. So we'll be feeling that on Monday evening as well. And that is an excellent aspect for relationships and all social interactions. Really, no one is in the mood for work, especially in the early part of the day on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, the 23rd, in the morning, we get Mercury square Uranus. And that makes it a mentally stimulating day. Mercury can handle the energy of Uranus much better than most, and it's actually a very exciting kind of a aspect. As well, Mercury enters Aquarius today, so it's a very mentally stimulating day on Wednesday. And then Thursday, the 24th, we have a quiet day. We've got a long moon void, of course, in Virgo from 6 in the morning until 8 in the evening. And then on Friday, the 25th, it's a very energetic day. We start in the morning with the moon trine Sun, always a lot of creative energy, and then Mars trine Jupiter. Oh yes, very exuberant. We feel lucky, and like we're connected to cosmic forces that guide our directions. It's Sagittarius to Aries, so we've got this strong desire to put your big plans into action. It's very inspirational. And then on Sunday, the 27th, we're going to have the last quarter moon. And for that one, I'm just recommending be clear with your intentions with others. Avoid keeping things in the dark because it's the square from Scorpio to Aquarius. And then at the end of this video, we'll go over the transits for the USA. William Barr, the nominee for Attorney General. Nancy Pelosi, Donna Brazile, Dianne Feinstein, who is against the nomination. Also going to go over the transits for France and Emmanuel Macron, the leader there. Okay, so let's get started with Monday the 21st. And I should say that this Mars aspect is going to be in effect starting Sunday evening. So it's Mars square Saturn, and that one will be at 13 degrees of Aries to 13 degrees of Capricorn. So this aspect causes us to meet life's hardships with aggression. Basically confront our responsibilities. Aspect makes it hard to address fears and insecurities because the ego and the identity is more aware and wrapped up in our limitations. So it's really hard to admit your mistakes with this one. It can give you a hard shell. It brings an aggressive attitude, difficulty towards persons in authority, an air of general dissatisfaction that life is too restrictive and does not provide enough opportunity for self-determination. All that Mars and Aries stuff feels rather restricted here. So you must be cautious and reserved with your judgment towards others, not let your insecurities show. And I should say, be willing to admit your mistakes. It really shows maturity. And Saturn really slows down the ego and asks us to double check what we're doing. Hesitate to be sure. And sometimes this comes in the form of judgment or discouragement from others, forcing you to be more self-disciplined. So, in that case, it could come at you where someone else is forcing you to admit your mistakes. So it's a challenging aspect, one that forces us to confront our limitations. And in extreme cases, this aspect can be very frightening to the point where it makes you freeze up for no valid reason. Saturn can be very restrictive, and when Mars is our action and our ability to move in direction, And that Saturn energy sometimes, in some cases, can be so strong it can give you like a panic attack, like, oh my gosh, I can't move. And that makes it really hard to accomplish anything. So it's a good time to just slow down and take it one step at a time. That Saturn energy enables you to, it needs to be released in a slow but sure, steady process. And that should help you overcome any fears. And we've got planets in there ruling signs. So it's a perfect example of the self-determination versus self-discipline issue that comes up in all the Aries to Capricorn squares. You know, we need to integrate these two principles in our lives. We need to become masters of the physical world. So it brings a stern attitude, and it's not a good time for social interactions. It's more a time of inner reflection, able to correct ourselves and be careful about coming off too aggressive with others. On the good side, this aspect does enable you to get a lot of work done, and work alone if necessary. Like all Mars-Saturn combinations, the energy is best released in a slow, steady manner that brings success, certainty, and long-term happiness. You know, Saturn is tough, but it's the only planet that guarantees the payoff in this lifetime. So if you can integrate Saturn, that's self-discipline and self-correction, with Mars, that's self-determination and courage, you will achieve mastery in this life. So you just need to have the right attitude. Self-discipline is good. In fact, today it brings you more energy. And in fact, self-correction is good today. It brings you more energy in the long run. And if you're not self-disciplined, then you can get frustrated, give in to your fears, and can't seem to find your direction. So today, benefits come from overcoming your fears and inadequacies, admitting your mistakes and limitations in life, and recognizing your true identity, your true capabilities as a master of the physical realm. Not complaining, not judging others. Be satisfied with the responsibilities that life presents you, seeing them as a path to success. When you do that, you will know what to do. You'll get your direction, your Mars back, as long as you're considering your Saturn, your long-term effects. And so that's kind of the payoff here. You've got to consider both at the same time. And then you'll get your direction and you'll know what to do. So this week, starting with this aspect and followed by the Mars trine Jupiter on Friday, Mars is going to connect to the three outer planets in their ruling signs. Even the Mars semi-sextile Neptune connects it to that planet as well. So we've got four planets in their dignity and in synchronicity with one another this week. So my sense is that Mars is going to activate the outer planets and move major events forward, both in our lives and in society and in general. So there's a lot of aggressive energy this week. And on a geopolitical level, authority gets aggressive. Mars will activate the current political battles. Real strong need to attend to your responsibilities with aggression. So that's how we get authority being aggressive here. And according to multiple sources, the trials against the members of the deep state are already happening at Gitmo or Guantanamo. And we should be hearing some major announcements later this month or early in February. And as this aspect wanes, as we get later on in the day, we move into a wonderful Monday evening. So I don't want to, put too much of a damper on Monday, because Monday night is really nice. The moon forms a grand trine, the moon in Leo, with Jupiter, Venus, and Mars. And add to that the Venus conjunct Jupiter early Tuesday morning. So Monday evening is really a time to socialize, time for romance and recreation, fun and laughter. Look for something to do this evening, especially between 6 and 10 p.m. Pacific time, starting with the moon trine Mars. In fire signs, a good time of physical health and emotional fortitude. In fire signs, lots of creative energy. It'll be hard to sit down. You need to get your body moving. It's a perfect time for a workout. Able to take the initiative, able to lead others as well. Willing to work with others, but able to work alone if necessary. We have a lot of courage with this one. Moon in Leo trine Venus a little later on brings pleasant disposition. We're warm and friendly, lots of socializing, and in these signs, more physical energy, romantic and dramatic, lots of display behavior. Excellent aspect for social interactions. And then following with the Moon trine Jupiter. This one has us enthusiastic and optimistic, desire to interact with others in a beneficial way, very helpful and positive attitude. You want to help others. Creative and physical energies reach a high point at this point, I would say. Folks are warm and sympathetic and desire to be in a crowd. So what a wonderful set of aspects for Monday night to help shake off that Mars square Saturn. And then moving into early Tuesday morning, we get Venus conjunct Jupiter. You see here in the early part of 16 degrees of Sagittarius. So today we feel lucky. We just feel lucky. Okay, it's an excellent time for relationships. Really no better aspect, I would say, especially in Sagittarius. We feel very liberated and free to move about. So relationships that start now are expansive and beneficial, enabling both partners to grow. So all in all, a great aspect for socializing as well. No one wants to work. Aspect makes you kind of lazy and indulgent. Desire to be around art and artistic people, pleasant surroundings, luxury and extravagance. Venus is our receptive side, and Jupiter is the good things in life. So this aspect opens us up to the good things in life. We're optimistic and got a positive attitude and a pleasant disposition, forgiving, generous, and very easygoing. We all have a greater ability to share our feelings, and no one wants to argue tonight. So great aspect for settling legal disputes as well. And then moving into Tuesday evening, we get the Moon trine Uranus. And benefits come from engaging in mentally stimulating activities. So find something interesting to do. We're ambitious and desire to lead the group. Start a new project. We got more physical energy and lots of creative inspiration. And then we have a short void, of course, until the Moon enters Virgo. So we're more skillful for the next couple of days. Better at analytical tasks, keeping appointments, mundane tasks as well, more fastidious and discriminating and displaying good judgment. And it's the time each month when we attend to our health regime. And the same is true whenever the Moon enters your 6th house, whatever sign that is for you in your chart. Okay, moving along to Wednesday, the 23rd. Again, we start in the morning with a planetary aspect. Third time this week, Mercury square Uranus. Okay, this one will be 29 degrees of Capricorn, or actually 28 degrees of Capricorn to 28 degrees of Aries. So this aspect stimulates the mind, gets us interested in topics outside our normal range. We are more intelligent, and our responses, our nervous system is working better. We're faster responses. The conscious mind is attracted to anything new and interesting. New technologies, progressive ideas, freedom, social causes, changes that are happening in the world, whatever society is going through now. And the mind moves quickly from one thing to the next. So it may be hard to stay focused, and really not a good aspect for precise work that requires patience and discipline. We're more idealistic at this time. We're more group-oriented. But it's so optimistic and idealistic, I should say. It leads to hasty decisions sometimes, so it's really not the best time to make important decisions, although lots of inspiring ideas come to mind. You may have to contend with a sudden change in plans. This aspect may cause electrical breakdowns and outages, and so folks may experience a nervous condition. So drive with caution. But for most folks, this is a wonderfully stimulating aspect because, unlike other planets, Mercury is flexible and therefore very open to the Uranus energies, even with the square. Okay, so that should make it for a very stimulating Wednesday morning. And then moving into the evening, we've got Moon trine Saturn. Well, this will calm us down a bit. Benefits come from focusing on mundane tasks, very self-disciplined, very practical and down to earth. Skillful use of your time leads to gains in reputation and career opportunities. I should also say opportunities for material gain. You just got to get into that skillful Virgo energy. And then exactly 1 hour later, get the Moon opposition Neptune, Virgo to Pisces. So this one has our emotions really expanding, kind of dissolving into the collective. We feel more connected to the non-physical world, but also a bit uncertain and confused, and we're very sensitive now and desire to escape. So it also brings up more psychic abilities, but you got to be careful when interacting with others with these tough Moon-Neptune connections. People are just too sensitive right now and not in the mood for any sort of aggressive confrontation. More a desire to be helpful towards others, because Virgo likes to be helpful. Lots of healing energy. It's a passive mood, maybe of service towards others. But thinking is unclear. It's not a good time to make decisions. And of course, you want to avoid intoxicants. Very good time to meditate and work on your connection to spirit. Virgo to Pisces, we are looking for information to help us adapt and move on to new circumstances. And that's what those signs do better, each one at the threshold of moving into a different hemisphere, a different phase of life, to help us adapt. And the Moon energy keeps us busy on Wednesday evening with the Moon square Jupiter, an abundance of emotional energy. You know, the mood is generally good and folks are warm and generous and desire to help one another, but kind of over-exuberant, sometimes self-righteous, come off as virtue signaling, and the Virgo to Sagittarius square, we feel like we have to make too many corrections, like nothing is ever good enough. And it brings up poor financial judgment. But to further stimulate the mind, Mercury enters Aquarius on Wednesday evening. Joins the Sun there, and Mercury will be in Aquarius until February the 10th. So Mercury moves from Capricorn, which is cardinal Earth, where we were focused on mundane matters and tradition and career and all that mental self-discipline, and it moves into fixed air, where we can conceptualize, think in the abstract, perceive group dynamics, and are generally more intelligent with a sharp intellect, able to think quickly and independently. And Mercury loves to be in Aquarius, where it's exalted and can display the qualities of resourcefulness and originality, yet very social and interested in the community. So it's time to break out of traditional modes of thinking and develop new ideas, become more technologically savvy, and interact more with friends and social groups. Okay, so that'll be until February the 10th. And moving along to Thursday the 24th, we start just after midnight with the Moon square Venus. If Virgo Moon is helpful, in this case, instead of critical, then Venus gets a chance to show affection. So it actually can be a nice aspect, even though it's a square. But we are kind of overly sensitive, makes it hard to relate to others, and it's generally not a good time for social interactions. Although early in the morning on Thursday, we've got lots of energy from the Moon trine Pluto. In this case, benefits come from participating in the community, working hard to get ahead because it's in Earth signs, helping others to improve their lives. And I should also say, looking for opportunities for material gain. Generally, we feel more capable and cohesive and integrated internally, able to rise above our insecurities, and we feel this need to merge with others, feel a strong connection and hence commitment to society. It's an excellent time for business. There will be opportunities for material gain, lots of energy and stamina, able to get lots of work done and make improvements in the home. In Earth signs, we're very grounded, and Pluto gives us that profound inner awareness, a connection to Mother Earth at these times. So that can be something nice to reflect on during the long void, of course, the longest one we're having this week from 6 in the morning until 8 o'clock this evening. Reflect on our connection to Mother Earth. And then in the evening, the moon enters Libra. So we're more focused on relationships and one-to-one exchanges with people over the next couple of days. And benefits come from those positive interactions, which we really need. We're more interested in beauty and art and the kind of things you do on a date. And generally, it's a good placement for social activities, for relationships as well, parties, etc. As folks are more congenial and desire to be with others, especially with the next aspect, Mercury, Moon trine Mercury. Good time for communication, able to express your emotions. Thoughts and emotions flow smoothly into one another. It's Libra to Aquarius, that's air sign, so there's lots of intellectual activity. It's perfect time for writing. Relationships find social activities or lead to social activities. Emotional equilibrium leads to a good time spent with friends and associates. It's a good time for business. Okay, moving along to Friday, the 25th. Got a very energetic day, starting early in the morning with the moon trine sun. So this is the second trine. I like to call them out that way, the way we call out the last quarter and first quarter, that kind of thing. It's a time of good psychological health and well-being. We're able to communicate well. It's in air signs, so thoughts flow naturally without inhibitions. Able to think more easily. Another good time for writing and communication. Abundant creative energy makes this one of the best times of the month for social interactions, and it's an excellent time for relationships. And then in the morning, we're going to be, having a lot of energy with this Mars trine Jupiter. So this will be 16 degrees of Aries to 16 degrees of Sagittarius. And it's considered one of the best aspects in the book. Actions lead to fortunate results. It's a lucky aspect. It gives us encouragement, lots of physical energy. And in these signs, ability to see patterns in your life and how things fit together. And we sense opportunity everywhere. In general, we feel much better about ourselves during these times. Sagittarius to Aries, some idea or principle from Sagittarius is incorporated into your identity. And that turns out to this desire to put your big plans into action. And so there's just a lot of inspiration here. Lots of forward movement. Creativity flows in abundance. We want to start projects, do things like that. Big plans. Inspires principled actions as well. We feel connected to cosmic forces that guide our direction. May act in a self-righteous manner, so there's a chance of going a little bit too far with this energy and getting a big head. So beware of that tendency, which would distract you from the real big picture. But in most cases, it's very positive. We feel inspired to be the best we can be, and we can overcome our inhibitions and make a bold statement about our direction in life. And basically, you should move forward with any opportunity for advancement or gain that comes across at this time. It's an excellent aspect for business deals and negotiation, and for starting new projects. I should mention that as well. So that's something to look forward to with this aspect on Friday. And I should also mention on a geopolitical level, this will probably have some effect with judicial actions moving forward. So that's a very beneficial aspect for that as well. And then moving on into the evening, we do have the moon square Saturn. That'll get us a little slowed down for a couple of hours on Friday night as emotions contract and we're not as responsive to others as usual. We're more aware of our limitations, and our insecurities seem worse than they really are. A tendency to lean on others for their security, and basically at these times, benefits come from not depending on others for your emotional security, finding that independent ability within yourself. Okay, moving along to Saturday, the 26th. We start just after midnight with the moon sextile Jupiter. This one brings a pleasant disposition. We're open-minded. It's a good time for relationships. Folks are helpful and encouraging. And then still very early in the morning, the moon opposition Mars. This one has us confrontational. Powerful meetings bring greater awareness of how the other person, that's usually your partner, how they feel. Beware of expressing anger or making hasty decisions. And then early in the morning, I should say just after sunrise, the moon sextile Venus. So we kind of wake up with a smile on Saturday morning. Aspect brings very congenial and diplomatic behavior, very easygoing, more sensitive and artistic. We seek harmony and balance. It's a good time for interactions and for business meetings and negotiations. Gotta love those sextiles to Venus, especially when the moon is in Libra. Okay, moon square Pluto, a little later in the morning on Saturday. So this one makes folks very sensitive and easily hurt. Don't take rejection well. Apprehensive and reserved. Social interactions are challenging. It can bring obsessions with the issue and sudden urges, but it forces you to deal with your emotions honestly, able to isolate yourself and analyze an issue and make internal corrections. And as always with the tough Pluto aspects, you want to avoid emotional entanglements or anything underhanded. And then in the evening, we've got the moon opposition Uranus. Should make Saturday evening kind of exciting. Restless and crave excitement or something new. Interested in the unusual, kind of defiant, act in ways out of the ordinary. So you want to avoid hasty decisions. It's kind of easy to reach the wrong conclusion now. It's not a good time for social interactions, although we tend to attract more people during these times anyway. Just feel that need to do that. And then we've got a short void, of course, until the moon enters Scorpio. So we're more intense and passionate about life for the next couple of days. We're more aware of the inner workings of the mind and of the subtle undercurrents between people. Makes us paranoid sometimes. But really it's time for emotional regeneration, repair and upkeep around the home. It's important to maintain your integrity and inner resolve as you go through this work. We're more resourceful and driven and prefer to remain dignified while avoiding social complications. We're looking for deep, meaningful encounters with others, nothing superficial, and it's considered not a good time for surgical operations. And I should add, the general way to deal with the moon in Scorpio, if the energy just gets too intense, is you just want to keep moving. Think of that with Scorpio. Just always keep moving. Keep the energy flowing. And doing that really helps you utilize the benefits. Okay, moving into Sunday, the 27th. We start in the morning with moon square Mercury. So emotions interfere with normal communication. Scorpio to Aquarius, fear of secrets being revealed. Benefits come from minding your own business, basically, not getting involved in emotional entanglements with others, or dealing with all of those secrets, because it's Scorpio to Aquarius. You know, Aquarius wants to bring things out into the light, and Scorpio wants to keep them in the dark. So there's that interaction there. You want to reveal things, but you got to be careful. And it's the same kind of energy for the last quarter moon, because it's also Scorpio to Aquarius. And that'll be happening in the early afternoon on Sunday. So as usual, we get the crisis for fulfillment as we reach the high point of this month's growth cycle. It can be a very successful time or a very self-critical time, which we sometimes take out on others. Scorpio to Aquarius. So the issue revolves around private or privileged information. Whether to reveal or not to reveal. That is the question. You know, Aquarius says you need to reveal for the benefits of the group, while Scorpio says I need to be keeping this private for my own personal integrity. So it's always a serious judgment call. And basically speaking, benefits come from being totally clear about your intentions with others. You don't want to have people thinking that you're keeping things hidden from them, things that could undermine them, because that's what brings resentment. So basically at these times, you just want to be totally clear, very Aquarian, out in the open about your intentions, what you really want, your Scorpio. And if you do that, then you can really be successful. Otherwise, you want to kind of mind your own business and not get involved in other people's emotional entanglements as they work through that same issue. And the new moon in Capricorn that started us on a month of career achievement brings you to a moment when you realize whether or not you were successful in your attempts to achieve the position of power that you sought at the new moon. So it's that moment of success or failure. So if it's yes, then it's a happy moment. If not, then you do feel some disappointment. But it also brings up that learning lesson. You know, the new moon in Capricorn, this whole idea of starting a career, and then it ends on this issue of, you know, being able to be totally clear about your intentions and how that is such an important element of maintaining your career in life. So it's overall a good end of a great moon, new moon in Capricorn. So that's all for the aspects this week. Now I'd like to go over some transits coming up. We'll start with the USA. It's going through a really tough time. Early in the week, we've got the Mars square Saturn. You'll see that it'll be around 13 Aries to 13 Capricorn. And it's sure to affect the USA because the USA's got the Sun here at 12, almost 13 Cancer, and Saturn at 14 Libra. So basically speaking, the natal Sun square Saturn in the chart of the USA becomes a grand cross. I should have said grand cross, not T. So basically it forms this big grand cross across, on top of the whole chart. And in this case, you know, the authority gets aggressive with the Mars square Saturn, and that's going to really affect America and its structure. And it's going to show a lot of weaknesses to America's structure, but it's also going to force America to get really down and dirty, get really tough. And already we're getting several indications that the trials are underway at Guantanamo. But no one has seen or heard of Clinton or Obama since the funeral of George H.W. Bush, as well as a lot of these other characters. So it's getting pretty clear that something is going on, and we're just waiting for stuff to come out. So let's talk about these transits. The Mars opposition Saturn. That'll be on the 22nd. And that makes it a frustrating time, and compounded by all the other major transits. And it's a time of great limitations because of this grand cross. Internal power struggles as well. While from a military standpoint, the U.S. is rather weak right now. Very hesitant, unable to act really, lack of certainty. The restriction on movement can be so profound that it causes a panic attack in some authorities. Like I mentioned earlier with the Mars square Saturn, we feel so restricted in our movement that we can become overwhelmed. And that's what I see happening here with the USA. Sort of an authority goes into a panic attack, or at least some persons in authority. And that comes from this overwhelming, stifling energy that prevents any movement at all. It's a time of karmic endings. And it's all happening in the fixed houses. So it's like all the elements. You've got fixed earth, fixed fire, fixed water, fixed air. They're all locked in an intense power struggle. And the fixed elements of society, the ones that can't adapt and move on, you know, into the mutable signs, those are forced into conflict with one another through these oppositions, brings these powerful meetings, which leads to conflicts. And you got Saturn on both the giving and the receiving end of it. So, judgment for authority figures. And this likely translates to the culmination of the fight against the deep state. It's a struggle between competing authorities. And the intense repression that we're all feeling right now, I think it translates into it's hard to get any authentic news. The USA is really cut off from the rest of the world, and so are all of the citizens. We all feel very restricted and hemmed in right now. Like we can't move. We can't get out of our fixed ways. We can't adapt until this intense judgment occurs. And Mars square Saturn is forcing the USA to redirect aggressive energy inward, forcing authority to get tough, as well as stopping the military. You know, it's a time of great testing. It's all meant to build integrity and internal fortitude, you know, build character. But if we look at the overall theme, you know, at this time, what's missing is the usual warlike activity that's characterized U.S. policy ever since the Bush administration. There's been a lot of pulling back. Never in recent history has the USA been so unable to engage in aggressive actions or military actions. So it's pretty clear that this Mars square Saturn is kind of the culminating point of so many of these aspects that are happening this month. Mars in Aries, you know, putting things into action, moving things forward, bringing the confrontations. It's all happening in the early part of this week. And recently I wanted to point out we had the Jupiter quincunx Sun. I talked about this in the Deep State War report I put out. I said we may see someone appointed who does not believe in the official story. I was hoping it would be someone who didn't believe in the official story of 9/11, but it turns out it's someone who doesn't believe in the official story of the Mueller investigation. And that is Trump's nominee for the Attorney General, William Barr. He's someone who has publicly come out against the Russian collusion investigation. You might want to research that. He put out a 19-page memo that some people said read like a job application. Well, it seems to have worked because it looks like he's going to get the job. And we've got this Jupiter conjunct Venus happening in the USA's 7th house, and that really looks good for an appointment of that nature, a judicial nature, which is what he's got, I think. And if we take a look at William Barr's chart, I don't have his correct birth time, by the way, but in general, we can see that when the Jupiter conjunct Venus happens early in the week, here we got it at 15 degrees of Sagittarius, it's going to trine his Pluto at 15 degrees of Leo. Boy, is that lucky for him. That's really good. You know, that's exactly the kind of thing that you would expect if someone's going to be successful. Things go his way for sure. So it's a very clear indication. And this is what leads me to believe that he's going to be appointed the new Attorney General. But soon afterwards, he's going to be getting Saturn squaring his Neptune. Saturn currently at 13. When it reaches 14 degrees of Capricorn, it's going to square his Neptune at 14 degrees of Libra. And he's also getting a Neptune quincunx Neptune. So he's going to get caught up in the whole Saturn sextile Neptune aspect happening at the end of this month. And the one I'm really thinking about is the Saturn square Neptune. It's just the first pass. He's going to get a couple more. It brings uncertainty about his future, a crisis of faith, possibly a great disappointment, which is very much the opposite of this Jupiter conjunct Venus trining Pluto. So we'll see what happens after he gets appointed, which is probably what's going to happen. I'm thinking he's going to have a really challenging first year. But it's interesting. You might want to read this guy's resume. He was the Attorney General under George H.W. Bush, so who knows why Trump really nominated him. I guess he decided that he would be willing to do whatever Trump wanted him to do. So we'll see what happens. So next up, I wanted to talk about some Democrats who are getting really big Jupiter transits this week, and it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. And here we start with Nancy Pelosi. You know, I wish I had her correct birth time. I've tried to make a guess at it here because I think she's a Virgo rising, and definitely she's got Mercury connected to her ascendant. So maybe, you know, Neptune on the ascendant with Mercury opposition in Pisces, opposition Neptune on the ascendant. That one kind of fits. But anyway, that one's just a guess. I'm taking a look at her transits, and you know, she's one of those that's kind of feeling really cut off right now because Trump just prevented her from going on her secret mission. She said it was a political mission, but it's really a secret mission to Brussels to meet up with her handlers and plot the demise of Trump and Pence in the hopes that she could become president by default, because after all, she's third in line to be president, and if something happened to Trump and Pence, she would be moved up. So she's going to get a really big head about herself this week, and that's going to come from Jupiter square Mercury and Jupiter trine Jupiter at the same time. When Jupiter reaches 17 degrees of Sagittarius, this one's on the 27th, so at the end of this week and moving into the beginning of next week, starting with the Jupiter square Mercury. Both transits will get her to open her mouth wide and project her views without inhibition. Okay? She's fighting for her political life right now, and sometimes I think that this is going to be the case is what it is here. I put it in quotes. The bulb burns brightest just before it burns out. She's going to really be talking a lot. The ungrounded, excessive energy of Jupiter can be destructive. You got to watch out. It can just take you too far. She can get a really big head about herself with this Jupiter trine Jupiter. And it could give her the notion that she could become president. You know, it's that whole idea of incorporating some Sagittarius element into your identity and becoming that. And with Jupiter on the receiving end, you know, she could get a Jupiter in Aries. You know, Aries rules the head, and Jupiter makes things bigger. So Jupiter and Aries can get a big head if they're not careful and lose perspective, not see other people's perspective, because Aries only sees one side of the issue. So with this Jupiter pumping up her natal Jupiter in Aries while it's squaring her Mercury, she's really liable to say something quite outrageous, or possibly do something outrageous, or put her big plans into action in a way that is very illegal. Okay? Maybe she thinks she's connected to cosmic forces. Maybe she gets a God complex. That's been known to happen on the Sagittarius to Aries trine, especially with Jupiter on the receiving end. So she's going to be a really interesting one to watch this week. The Jupiter square Mercury will make it hard for her to stop talking. She may say too much, be very blunt, and cause serious problems for herself. And this whole idea of Nancy Pelosi being involved in a plot to get rid of Trump and Pence has some interesting side notes to it. One of them is Donna Brazile. She used to be in Obama's administration. I forget which position. But anyway, on Saturday the 19th, she tweeted the following regarding Nancy Pelosi. I thought this was just amazing. She said, "Madam Speaker today, President Pelosi shortly thereafter. MLK weekend is underway." So that's a pretty outrageous statement. I thought, I'm going to go look at her transits. You know, maybe she thinks Trump and Pence will be gone soon for some reason. Now look at this. Jupiter conjunct Jupiter. 15 degrees of Sagittarius. You see how those Jupiter transits can really make you too blunt, sometimes arrogant and bombastic, and say too much, make you think you're more than you really are, especially if you're someone like her who clearly has not been corrected in her perspective yet, so she thinks she can get away with it. But generally speaking, I think she's afraid of what's coming up soon. So that's another one with the Jupiter transits I wanted to point out. And then here's the third one, Dianne Feinstein, senator from California. She's another one who's apt to say too much under these Jupiter transits. Or maybe just try to expand a bit too much, far overreaching her normal boundaries. And that's because she's getting this Jupiter, square Jupiter, that'll be 15 Sag to 15 Virgo. At the same time, we have the Jupiter conjunct Venus. So, first of all, she's one of those people in Congress who's critical of William Barr's appointment. And this Jupiter square Jupiter says to me that she does not get her way and the appointment moves forward because it's a square to her Jupiter. So I'm thinking she really is probably going to speak a lot or try to do something to prevent this from happening, but will not be successful. And that, furthermore, it will not be long until Neptune reaches 15 degrees of Pisces and opposes her natal Jupiter, taking her on a permanent vacation, which is what I think is coming up for her pretty soon. Okay, moving along to France. I'd like to talk about them. It's been kind of exciting with them recently with this yellow vest movement. Last week on the 18th at Jupiter trine Uranus, and that yellow vest movement is moving into new territory. They're doing things that they've never done before, becoming more bold and adventurous, and that's what Jupiter trine Uranus will do to you. You know, it's almost a revolution at this point. Other transits coming up are going to make that happen, but what's happening this week, at the start of the week, we see the Saturn square Mars aspect at 13 degrees Aries to 13 Capricorn. It's going to make an opposition and a square to their natal Mercury at 13 Libra. So they already got the Saturn square the Sun, and now they're going to get Saturn square Mercury, along with Mars opposition Sun and Mercury. So they're caught up in this whole authority gets aggressive energy as well, and also undergoing sort of a panic attack, like, you know, they can't move forward until they recuperate their Saturn, their integrity. So much like the USA, they're feeling rather restricted right now. And powerful confrontation from these Mars oppositions. So we can expect quite a bit of struggle in the early part of the week. And really it's very hard for authority to do anything aggressive right now because Saturn is putting a damper on that. So authority is frustrated, lacks confidence. In politics, Mercury slows to a crawl. And it's bringing I would say, an aggressive reevaluation because the Mars is involved of their responsibility. So the reevaluation is concurrent with all of these powerful confrontations. Really, they need to admit their mistakes so that they can move on politically and recuperate their trust with the public. But I think events are going to get really radical this year in France. And that's because you'll see Uranus currently almost about to enter Taurus at the very end of Aries. And this year it's going to oppose their Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in the early degrees of Scorpio. So you can imagine that's a very powerful point in their chart. And with Uranus opposing Neptune and Jupiter, it's really going to give the revolution a big boost. This is really the main aspect that's going to cause it to happen. So my prediction is that this yellow vest movement is going to grow. Oh, and by the way, this Jupiter trine Uranus, it's had just one pass. We've got 2 more passes of that to go as well. So overall, it really looks like this yellow vest movement is going to grow and grow until it overtakes the general population. And I thought I would take a look at Macron's transits. Emmanuel Macron, he's the leader there. People are criticizing him a lot, but it's quite amazing what good transits he's having. Because first of all, you'll see this Jupiter conjunct Venus. It's conjuncting his Neptune at 16 degrees Sag. It's sextiling his Pluto at 16 degrees of Libra. And what else has he's got going? His Uranus, when it enters Taurus, he'll get another pass of a sextile to Jupiter and a trine to Saturn. He's already had 2 passes of that. So that'll be coming up for him. However, later on this year, Neptune, when it reaches 16 degrees of Pisces is going to square his natal Neptune. And that's going to be a difficult one for him. And he'll probably face some challenges then. But for now, he looks pretty solid astrologically. It'll be really interesting to see what happens with France this week, what kind of way they react to all these restrictions and how he deals with the problem. We'll see as it grows later on this year, as his good transits pass away and the more radical transits for France start to come forward, and things are going to change quite a bit. Okay, so that's all this week for weekly astrological notes. Please leave comments. I love to get those. Helps to get the discussion rolling. And just to let you know, I am a practicing astrologer, and if you're interested in getting a reading from me, please contact me at mogulstar7@yahoo.com or through my weblog or my website. I'll leave links in the description. And once again, thanks for viewing, and thanks to all my subscribers. I really appreciate it. I'm up to 707 now. It's kind of a lucky number. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I really appreciate it if you hit the like button. And thanks for sharing my videos as well. Have a great week, many blessings, and be good to yourself.